It was a symbol. A small black device held in the palm of a hand. It was the mark of a person who mattered. In boardrooms and government halls, on trading floors, its quiet click-clack was the sound of business itself. BlackBerry was not just a phone. It was an extension of power. It was the conduit for decisions that moved markets and shaped nations. For a brief, brilliant moment, the company behind it, Research in Motion, owned the future of mobile communication. Its dominance felt absolute. Its grip on the professional world seemed unbreakable. The loyalty it commanded was fierce. The year was 2007. BlackBerry devices were everywhere. They were in the hands of presidents, they were in the hands of prime ministers, they were clipped to the belts of CEOs, they were clipped to the belts of investment bankers. The company's revenue soared, its stock price climbed to dizzying heights. Its users, addicted to the instant gratification of push email, called them crackberries. Then, almost overnight, the world changed. The sound of business began to change with it. A few years later, the devices that mattered came from other companies. The fall of BlackBerry was as swift as its rise was stunning. This is a story of a titan's fall. It is a cinematic drama played out in corporate offices and engineering labs. The plot is driven by innovation hubris, the relentless march of technology. It is a narrative of choices. These were choices about product design. They were choices about market strategy. They were choices about corporate culture. We will examine the precise moments of triumph that built an empire. Then we will dissect the critical errors that brought it all down. This is the story of how BlackBerry won the world and then lost it all. The scale of the collapse was staggering. A company that once held nearly half of the US smartphone market saw its share evaporate. A brand that was a household name faded into obscurity. The empire began humbly in Waterloo, Canada. It started with two engineering students, Mike Lazaridis, Douglas Freegan. In 1984, they founded Research in Motion. Their initial focus was not on phones. They were fascinated by the emerging world of wireless data. They tinkered with LED signs for General Motors. They developed film barcode readers. That won them an Emmy and an Oscar for technical achievement. These early projects honed their expertise in electronics and wireless technology. Their true ambition, however, was grander. They saw a future where information was not tethered to a desk. The big idea was email, specifically wireless email. At the time, mobile devices were pagers that displayed simple numbers or short messages. Phones were for voice calls. Lazaridis envisioned a device that could send and receive full emails, instantly and securely, anywhere in the world. He believed this would revolutionize how business was conducted. The challenge was immense. It required squeezing a keyboard, a screen, a radio, and a long-lasting battery into a small handheld form factor. It was a puzzle of engineering, software, and network infrastructure that no one had yet solved. Their breakthrough came in the late 1990s. The interactive pager 950, later branded as the first BlackBerry, was born. It was a two-way pager with a tiny physical keyboard. It was clunky by today's standards, but revolutionary for its time. Crucially, Research in Motion developed a server system that pushed emails directly to the device. This was the magic. Users did not have to manually check for new messages. The email simply arrived, with a buzz and a blinking red light. It felt instantaneous. It was reliable. It was addictive. This was the core innovation that would fuel BlackBerry's meteoric rise. BlackBerry's strategy was a masterclass in focus. The company did not try to win the whole world. It targeted a very specific, lucrative niche: the enterprise. It went after large corporations. It went after financial institutions. It went after government agencies. These organizations had deep pockets. They needed secure, reliable mobile communication. They were cautious about new technology. BlackBerry tailored its approach to win their trust. It was precision, not a shotgun blast. BlackBerry built its empire by selling to IT departments, not individuals. It offered a complete, end-to-end solution. The BlackBerry Enterprise Server was the heart of that strategy. It integrated with Microsoft Exchange. It integrated with IBM Lotus Notes. It let IT admins manage fleets of devices. They could enforce security policies. They could remotely wipe lost devices. They could lock down user capabilities. That security was unheard of, a dream for risk-averse firms. The enterprise focus created a powerful moat. While rivals fought for retail attention, BlackBerry signed massive Fortune 500 contracts. The sales cycle was long, but relationships were sticky. Adoption meant deep embedding in corporate infrastructure. Switching away was costly and complex. That created a predictable, growing revenue stream. BlackBerry became synonymous with corporate America. Having a BlackBerry signaled you were part of the club. The ecosystem expanded. BlackBerry forged tight carrier partnerships with AT&T. BlackBerry forged tight carrier partnerships with Verizon. Carriers loved the devices. The devices drove high-margin data plans. BlackBerry Messenger, BBM, was an exclusive, encrypted messaging service. BBM created a strong network effect. The more BlackBerries in use, the more useful BBM became. It was a closed, private network for the business elite. Enterprise sales, carrier partnerships, and a sticky messaging platform made BlackBerry seem invincible. BlackBerry's power was rooted in a philosophy of total control. The company was a walled garden long before Apple popularized the term. It designed the hardware. It wrote the operating system. It managed the network operations center. It built the server software. This vertical integration was its greatest strength. Every piece of the puzzle was optimized to work with every other piece. This resulted in an experience that was incredibly fast, efficient, and secure. On January 9, 2007, the ground began to shift. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco and introduced the iPhone. It was a device unlike any other. It was a single, sleek slab of glass. It had no physical keyboard. Dramatic side-by-side. BlackBerry Bold versus the original iPhone. Keyboard versus full touchscreen. It was controlled by a revolutionary multi-touch interface. It featured a full desktop-class web browser. Most importantly, it was not just a phone. It was a powerful pocket computer. It was designed for a new kind of user experience, centered on media, the internet, and a new concept called apps. BlackBerry's leadership watched from afar. They were not impressed. They were dismissive. They saw the iPhone as a toy. It had a terrible virtual keyboard. Its battery life was abysmal. It ran on a slower, less efficient network. It lacked the enterprise-grade security that was BlackBerry's calling card. They believed no serious business professional would ever trade their reliable BlackBerry for this fragile, consumer-focused gadget. In an infamous interview, RIM's co-CEO Jim Balsillie declared, "It's kind of one more entrant into an already very busy space." They fundamentally misunderstood what they were seeing. The iPhone was not just a new product, it was a new paradigm. It shifted the basis of competition. The battle was no longer about call quality, battery life, or email efficiency. It was about the user experience. It was about the power of software. Apple's App Store, launched 1 year later, was a stroke of genius. It unleashed the creativity of thousands of developers around the world. Suddenly, a phone could be a music player. Suddenly, a phone could be a GPS navigator. Suddenly, a phone could be a game console. Suddenly, a phone could be a social networking tool. The phone became a platform for infinite possibility. This shift was subtle at first, then seismic. Faced with this new reality, BlackBerry made a series of critical errors. The first and most fatal was a failure of vision. The company's leadership remained convinced that their core enterprise market was safe. They doubled down on their existing strengths, security, the physical keyboard. They viewed the iPhone and the burgeoning Android ecosystem as a separate, consumer-focused market that did not threaten their corporate stronghold. This denial and hubris led to a dangerously slow response. They were fighting the last war while a new one was already underway. When BlackBerry finally did respond, its efforts were half-hearted and flawed. The BlackBerry Storm, released in 2008, was their first attempt at a touchscreen device. It was a disaster. Instead of creating a true capacitive touchscreen like the iPhone, BlackBerry engineered a clickable screen called SurePress. Users had to physically press down on the entire screen to register a click. It was clunky, unintuitive, prone to failure. The device was buggy and slow. It was rushed to market to compete with the iPhone, and it badly damaged the brand's reputation for quality. The platform mistakes were just as damaging. As the world embraced apps, BlackBerry's developer ecosystem languished. Its operating system was old and difficult to build for. The tools were clunky. The potential audience was shrinking. In contrast, Apple's iOS was attracting developers in droves. Google's Android was attracting developers in droves. They offered modern tools and access to a massive, growing user base. BlackBerry tried to reboot its platform with BlackBerry 10, a modern OS based on QNX software. But it was too little, too late. By the time it launched in 2013, the app gap was an insurmountable chasm. For years, the company was run by co-CEOs Mike Lazaridis, Jim Balsillie. This structure, once a strength, became a liability. They reportedly had conflicting views on how to respond to the new competitive threat. This led to strategic paralysis and muddled execution. By the time the board replaced them in 2012, the company was already in a steep, irreversible decline. The competitive landscape had been redrawn completely. The threat was not just Apple. Google's Android operating system was an even greater disruptive force. Google gave Android away for free to handset manufacturers, Samsung, HTC, Motorola. This strategy armed a global army of companies to compete with BlackBerry. It unleashed a torrent of new devices at every price point. Suddenly, BlackBerry was not just competing with one premium device, it was competing with hundreds. The market became saturated with powerful, affordable touchscreen smartphones. A large, vibrant touchscreen was no longer a luxury, it was the standard. A rich app ecosystem was not a bonus, it was a requirement. High-quality cameras, seamless social media integration, powerful mobile web browsing. BlackBerry's devices, still largely focused on email messaging, began to look dated and limited. They were tools built for the old world of work. Users were demanding devices that could bridge their work and personal lives seamlessly. The market had moved on. The power dynamic with carriers also shifted dramatically. In the old days, BlackBerry was king. Carriers needed BlackBerry to sell lucrative data plans to their corporate clients. But the iPhone changed the game, and Android changed the game. Web browsing. Video streaming apps carriers realized these platforms were their future. They began to heavily promote iPhone's Android devices in their stores. BlackBerry, once the star of the show, was relegated to a dusty corner. Its negotiating leverage evaporated. The very definition of mobile security was also changing. BlackBerry's end-to-end encryption was still the gold standard. But it was no longer the only option. Competitors improved their security offerings. The rise of cloud computing MDM software allowed IT departments to secure and manage iPhones and Android devices. The numbers told a story of catastrophic failure. BlackBerry's global market share, which peaked near 20% in 2009, began to plummet. In its crucial North American market, the decline was even more precipitous. The company that once owned the corporate world was being abandoned by it. Sales stalled. Inventories of unsold devices piled up in warehouses. In 2011, the company launched the BlackBerry Playbook, a tablet designed to compete with the iPad. It was another commercial failure, released without a native email client, the very feature BlackBerry was famous for. The financial fallout was devastating. The company's stock price, which had peaked at over $147 per share in 2008, collapsed to single digits. The company began announcing staggering quarterly losses, sometimes in the billions of dollars. The red ink flowed relentlessly. This forced a series of painful restructurings. The company laid off thousands of employees, a gut-wrenching process for a firm that was once the pride of Canadian tech. The sense of crisis was palpable. The brand's cultural cachet vanished. The BlackBerry, once a status symbol, became an object of pity, then of ridicule. It was the phone your parents used. It was the phone your out-of-touch boss forced you to carry. The cool factor had shifted entirely to the sleek glass rectangles from Apple and Samsung. The emotional connection that users once had with their BlackBerry was gone. Loyalty, once a bedrock of the company's strength, eroded completely. The decline was not just a business story, it was a cultural one. In a last-ditch effort to survive, the company put itself up for sale in 2013. But a buyer for the entire firm could not be found. The company that was once worth over $80 billion was a shadow of its former self. It eventually abandoned the consumer handset market it had once defined. It pivoted to become a software and security company, a far smaller and less glamorous enterprise. The collapse was complete. The king had been deposed, its kingdom dismantled. The story of its reign was now a history lesson. The ruins of the BlackBerry empire offer stark and powerful lessons. The first is a warning against the dangers of success. BlackBerry became a victim of its own dominance. Its leadership was so confident in its enterprise fortress, they developed a fatal blind spot. They failed to respect a new competitor and misunderstood the fundamental shift in the market. The lesson is clear: never underestimate a threat, especially one that comes from an unexpected direction. Constantly question your own assumptions, because the market will. The second lesson is about the importance of the ecosystem. A great product is no longer enough. BlackBerry had a fantastic device and a secure network. But Apple and Google built something far more powerful: a platform. They created an ecosystem of developers, apps, services that delivered ever-expanding value to users. BlackBerry focused on perfecting its own controlled experience, while its competitors built a world for others to create in. The future belongs to those who build platforms, not just products. Third, one must obsess over the total user experience. BlackBerry was obsessed with efficiency and security. Apple was obsessed with simplicity and delight. In the end, delight won. As technology becomes more personal, the emotional connection a user has with a device becomes paramount. BlackBerry's leaders, engineers by training, missed this emotional shift. They saw phones as tools for work. Users began to see them as tools for life. Companies must understand the holistic needs and desires of their customers, not just their functional requirements. Finally, the BlackBerry story is a testament to the brutal speed of technological change. No advantage is permanent. No market position is unassailable. Leadership requires not just operational excellence, but also a culture of paranoia and a willingness to cannibalize your own success before a competitor does. BlackBerry's leaders hesitated. They tried to protect their legacy business instead of boldly inventing the future. That hesitation was fatal. The story of BlackBerry is not just a story of a fallen company. It is a timeless reminder that in the world of technology, the only constant is change, and those who fail to adapt are destined to become relics. It shows that no fortress is impenetrable, no king reigns forever. This is the story of BlackBerry.